Hi, welcome to Living from Desire. I'm Jason,
And I'm Melody.
and today I want to talk about is really strong emotions like terror or really strong fears. Often things that we like to avoid, for example, things that make us question whether we're a good person, like getting into legal trouble or addiction or not having enough money or breakups or anything that kind of signifies on a cultural level failure or worthlessness. And just to bring some overall context, at least half of life is failure, because in the first place, if we're establishing that we're assigning success and failure to our life, then there's a lot of moments where we're not experiencing that sort of peak of success, and instead we're experiencing setbacks and obstacles and failures. And so, to say the least, at least 50% of life could be at least considered in the gradient of failures. And so a significant skill to be able to develop in life is to be motivated beyond just the attachment to success. And so then how could I possibly be motivated in all these contexts that I'm not experiencing success? Like, what is my motivation in those moments? What is my motivation when I'm experiencing a lot of pain in an argument with someone and they don't like me? And like, what's my motivation there? Because I'm not succeeding. So the success is whenever we feel bad, whether we're feeling grief or heartache or things aren't going our way, to not just respond to emotions and sensations and thoughts that we don't like what's happening, we don't like how we feel, and just automatically go into sort of a spiraling of failure or like problem consciousness. How do we stay motivated in those situations and be able to have more of like a desire and exploratory consciousness? So that's what we'll talk about right now. And do you have any thoughts, Melody?
I sure do. When you said success, like a question that I would ask myself in that is, well, what does success mean to you? And what does success mean to me? And that actually ties in exactly to what we're talking about, because I think right now where I'm currently at, success to me is being on the spot. It's this feeling of like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Or like, right, this is exactly what's supposed to be happening right now. And it feels like, I keep thinking the word relief. It feels like relief because it's like, even if it doesn't necessarily feel good, it feels like I can breathe in that. And then I only know that feeling through contrast of not being on the spot. And when it felt like my entire life was not on the spot, I couldn't conceptualize what being on the spot meant. Like, I didn't understand what that meant. And
Well, share more about that. So what was your life like when you felt like it was off the spot?
Like, I was always justifying. Like, I was always trying to justify or assess my life, analyze my life. Like, my mind was really working. Like, my mind was trying to make sense of things, or trying to make things make sense, trying to justify, like the justification piece is one of it's one of like when that starts happening now I know it's a sign, because now I'm like, oh, I'm trying to justify this. Okay, so this is not actually really it, because if, in my experience, when it's it, there's no justification needed. Like there's no pull to try to make it sense, to try to make it make sense for me or for anyone else, because it's that feeling of like, this just is. And it's just like, oh, this is what it is. And it's this feeling of, like, it's so true. It's so true that it's almost like I should talk about me. I don't feel like I even need to talk about it, because there's no point in trying to get someone else to understand, and also the desire to get someone else to understand disappears, which has also been a big signal, because when I have that feeling of like, I want you to understand what I'm saying, then I kind of know, like, okay, it's probably not it. That doesn't mean I don't do all those things, because sometimes those things all have to play out for me to like hit the spot. But it's information for me to know that that's not it.
I love that. So I can think of times in my life where I thought, I'm trying so hard to make something happen or work. It could have been for me, I guess it's often been with different jobs, and just like, almost like the harder I work, the less it works. But you would think the inverse. And I can say, I can't really think of any, just based on my dispositions, any relationships that I've like had that with, where I've like tried so hard to make it work and it wasn't working. That's just not really my thing. I feel like I've always had that sense of like, this is on the spot or this is not on the spot with relationships in any given moment. But with work, I've always, like, I overdo it severely, of like not knowing. I mean, that might be a man thing, where, so much of my value is invested in my ability to be productive. And so, I often have, like, my best ideas aren't necessarily on the spot for what my life actually wants or what life actually wants. It can be very invested in my own sense of proving my own self-worth. So yeah, kind of getting back to like success and failure. If I think I'm so convinced about what success is, then maybe I'm not paying attention to what is actually needed in this moment to get on the spot, or to have that insight, or to find that that little change that is going to make the difference to keep things going. It amazes me sometimes where I can be in an argument with someone, and then it can just go like, get into like, we don't even know how we got into what we're arguing about. And then you're just kind of looking at the other person, like, what were we arguing about? Like, what was the actual seed of this? Mm-hmm. And being on the spot is staying with the seed of it, not getting into all the, generations of stories and judgments that we have about what's happening in the other person. It's like staying with the simple seed of like, you hurt my feelings, and now I'm reacting in all these ways. And I just want to tell you, you hurt my feeling when you said that. And so I'm curious what in you is hurt such that you would say such a thing that hurt my feelings. And then the life continues, to the next scene. It's pretty amazing the complexities that we can create when we're not on the spot, and even more so when we're convinced. When we have so many, it could be gender, it could be cultural ideas about what is success, or who I should be, or how, what should be on the spot when it isn't in fact on the spot.
I guess the way that I have found myself to function is I've always had the feeling that there's so much more to life than just what's presented to me or what I'm seeing, or like a typical successful life. And I'm not saying that there's not value in any of that, but for me it's this pull for more, and this pull for it still feels like sensational for me to say this out loud, knowing that we're putting this on the internet, but it's this pull that it's like, I know there's magic in the world, and I know that like there's something beyond minds that governs the world, that pulls the world, that pulls individual people. And I want that for me. And I want like direct access to that. And that's always kind of been like the thing that's pulled me in life, that I had always been looking for. And when I got into this practice of desire and like feeling for the spot and feeling for truth and listening to truth, and truth being, to me, what truth is desire on being on the spot. Like that's the sensation of truth. That feels like what magic is, because it's like the thing I can't make up, and yet the thing that's like I can't make up, meaning I'm not using my mind to create this. It's already here, and my job is to follow it. Well, it's to listen to it, to interpret it to the best of my ability, and then to follow, and then to like get out of my own mind's way of following it. So what's changed for me in following this is the thing or the mental thing that has always felt like it was seeking God. I don't hear that part anymore. Like I don't feel that. I'm at the stage where it's like, oh, I already have that recognition, and that part of my mind is quieter, and now the task is to actually follow through, is to actually follow it. And then, then a bunch of other stuff comes up.
I think about these different tracks that we're given in life. We can say success is certain attainments, like sort of like the checklist, like, we all know the good checklist, like, go to college, get a degree, kind of get a job, married, family, wealthy, the wealthier the better, sort of that checklist. So there's that. Then there's also the idea of following your passion, like following what you're most excited about. Then there's also, what are you good at? Maybe success is doing what you're good at. I was thinking about how then what we're talking about, being on the spot or having a practice of desire, is a fourth path option. And it's to say that it includes those last three. It includes all of those last three. That it's not so sort of one track that, maybe not. There's certain cultural encouragements that are checklists that are or are not right for me. We know plenty of people who are like, for example, like same-sex couples, that their marriage is going to look different than a heterosexual couple. Or if you're following your passion, it's like, well, for example, what's one of my passions? A passion that I've had is being a survivalist. And I've actually gone pretty far into trying it out. And it turns out that it's really difficult as a single human being to like live in the woods on your own and make all of life go or make all of life work. Like, we're just not designed as a single. So sometimes your passions it can be either something, maybe you're passionate about something, but you're actually not very good at it. Or you're passionate about something that's actually not really meant to happen. And so that can kind of screw you up. Mm. But another passion I've had is approaching life as a soul, and that we live in a energetic and as energies, and we're human beings, we're beings. The being part is energetic. Being, the etymology of being is to become. We're always becoming. That are another one of my passions has been to live as an energetic being, and to live by kind of in resonance with the principles of that. And so that's kind of worked out for this project that we're doing right now, the Village Soul Clinic, which is all about how all our problems of life stem from a absence of connecting with ourselves as energetic beings and living by those principles. So then there's also being, you could pick the life track of doing what you're good at. So maybe I'm really good at being like a team leader. Like, I'm good at coordinating between different people on a team. I'm a good coordinator. But if I don't have passion about whatever it is I'm coordinating, to the point where I might be good at coordinating, but I'm not necessarily good at whatever it is, that might be an issue. And so then finally, when we get to this sort of fourth life path of desire, it's like desire is our soul's evolutionary life force. So it's our soul sorting out what it's doing here on the planet. What are we doing here? What am I doing here? What do I want to do? And at any moment, that's sort of coalescing into my contribution to this video, to Jachi, to my apartment, to my partner, to the work I do. Like, it's everything. Who I am is a composite of what I want, of all the things I want. And so to really be in the practice of like sitting in the very rawness of who I am and taking notice of all the things I want and how they're coming together to create this entire life that I'm living. It's starting at a very intimate level of what is, what's on the spot, what's actually here. And then I'm taking action from there. And so I think this fourth way of living life is one that it's not to say that it's against any other way of living life, but it actually includes every other way of life. And so I think that's a really important distinction of what the practice of desire and living from desire is like, and then why the Village Soul Clinic and community is an important vision in addition to other options that we have.
When I was taught the concept of being on the spot, it's a concept, so I was like, I can, make up what that means to me. But it was through sexual practice, both through stroking and through actual sex, that that in that practice of feeling what that feels like in that context, then I could titrate that into my everyday experience of what that meant.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us today on Living from Desire. We really love talking about the contrast between failure and success in our own personal definitions and sort of like embedded life tracks around what failure and success mean for each of us. We will see you again soon.
Bye bye.